Here are your instructions on how to do the Chemistry of Carbohydrates lab. So the first thing that you're going to notice when you see your lab report is that there's a lot of background information here, just explaining some of the basics of biochemistry that we've already gone over in class, but you might need a refresher on. So talking about elements, talking about subscripts, talking about atoms, chemical formulas, and molecular formulas. So right here, for example, this is a structural formula for water. It shows not only that it's H2O, but it shows how that water molecule is rearranged. When we get down here to the carbohydrates themselves, you'll see that these are their structural formulas showing how they are arranged. And for the very first questions here, they're asking you to look at those formulas and find what three elements are present. So you're going to be looking at these molecules and looking for the different letters to represent those elements. And then for atoms of carbon, they're going to want you to actually just go through this structural formula and count up how many C's are present. And then when you get down to these questions, they want you to count how many C's, H's, and O's. Just a quick tip. For example, here it says H2, so that counts as 2 hydrogens. And then here, that's a third hydrogen. So already just at the top, we've got 1, 2, 3 hydrogens, 4, 5, so on and so forth. Okay? So that's how you do that first part. And then it's going to ask you how many times as many hydrogens as there are oxygens. So is it 5 times as many, 6 times as many? You're going to have to figure that out by looking at these formulas that you wrote down. You would do the same for water. So how many times greater is the number of H's than the number of O's? And then there's a lot of questions in this lab that just ask you, is it a yes or no question? Just circle one there. Same thing down here, circle yes or no if they are the same. And then we're going to talk disaccharides, and this is where you are going to use that last page of the lab. It says, look at the paper models from the last page, cut along the solid lines only. So what you're going to do, give me a second here. What you're going to do is you are going to find those paper models, like so, and you're going to cut all of those little hexagon shapes out, but only on the black lines, not the dotted lines, just the black lines. And then what you're going to be asked to do is you're going to be asked to put together a glucose and a fructose. And when you do that, you're trying to get them to fit together like puzzle pieces. And as you can see, they're going to bump up against each other, and they're going to stack on top of each other, but they're not going to go together perfectly like jigsaw puzzle pieces. So you're going to have to do something to get them to go together. So when you're doing that, it tells you exactly what to do. Remove an OH and an HN, so you're going to cut along the dotted lines, and then you're going to glue or tape your models right here. So that glucose and fructose, once you get them to fit together like jigsaw puzzle pieces, they're going to go right there. Make sure you glue them down, please. Then you're going to figure out the formula for it. So the formula, you're adding 1 glucose, 1 fructose, put those together, and then subtract a water. So treat it like a math problem, except fill in the subscripts and then figure out what you're left with at the end. Formula will go right here once you figure out that final formula. You're going to make another disaccharide, those puzzle pieces right there, glue and tape them in. Figure out the formula just like you did the previous question. Compare those two formulas, see if they're the same or if they're different and how they would be different. And then answer those questions. Polysaccharides, you're going to kind of go through the same process. You're going to construct a starch molecule by joining 3 glucose. So once again, you're going to use those little hexagons, cut them apart however you need to do so, and then glue them down. Answer the questions, and answer the questions as well about cellulose, and then the analysis questions down below. Most of these are pretty self-explanatory. You will only have a tiny little piece of paper left because you will have cut along this dotted line so that you can look at all your paper models, but don't completely lose this because that's 3 points of your lab is having these 3 questions answered as well. So don't lose that. Make sure it's still stapled to your lab report. When you are completely done with the lab and everything is answered, everything is glued down, then it can go into the homework turn-in basket for the day.